This is going to be my third and final proof. As with all of our other proofs, you know that the first two lines in your T-chart have to be your givens. And in this particular case, your givens are E is the midpoint of AC and E is the midpoint of BD. Many of you should recognize this proof because we took a quiz on it. Now, since those are the first two lines of my proof, that means that those have to be the first two things you put into your proof with the reason of given. The first two lines of your proof are E is the midpoint of AC and E is the midpoint of BD. And the reason for both of those are given. Now, being that E is the midpoint of both of these line segments, you have to know what a midpoint does. A midpoint cuts a line segment in half. So, E cut AC in half, so that means that AE is congruent to CE. Because it starts at A, goes to E, stops, and starts at E and then goes to C and stops. And both of those line segments have to be the same thing. The reason for that is the definition of a midpoint, because that's what a midpoint does. It cuts line segments in half. So that's your third line. Now, being that your second given was that E was the midpoint of BD, that means the same thing that E did to AC is what E did to BD also. So that means that it has to start at B and go to E. Boop. That's one line segment. And then it starts at E and goes on to D. That's your second line segment. And those two line segments are also congruent by the definition of a midpoint. So now, you've used up all of your given statements, but you only have two congruency signs. And in order to prove two triangles congruent, we need three congruency signs. So looking back at our figure, there is something that we have to automatically know. Now, automatically, you do not have a reflexive side. There isn't a side in either one of these triangles that show up in both triangles. So that's useless. You don't have a reflexive angle. You don't have an angle that is exactly the same angle in both triangles. All three sides for the triangle on the left are completely different than the three sides for the triangle on the right. All three angles on the triangle on the left are completely different angles than the triangle on the right. But there is one thing that they do share, or one thing that is automatic. You have vertical angles. Whenever you see the bow tie, you know vertical angles are going to exist. So in this particular case, angle BEA is congruent to angle DEC. Automatic. You won't be told. It's something you have to know. And that is going to be your next line in the proof. That angle BEA is congruent to angle DEC. And the reason is vertical angles. Now, how many congruency signs do we have? We have three. Now, you have two pairs of sides, because you have AECE, that's one pair. You have BEDE, that's the second pair. And you have a pair of angles. There are four congruency theorems. Side, 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 can't use it because we don't have enough sides. Angle, angle, side, can't use it because we don't have enough angles. Angle, side, angle, again, can't use it, not enough angles. The only congruency theorem that can be used for this particular proof is side, angle, side. Because you have two pairs of sides and one angle. And that's the only congruency theorem that's going to work. So we can say the triangle BEA is congruent to triangle DEC by side, angle, side. And as we've stated before, we automatically know what our last line is going to be. In this case, our last line is going to be that AB is congruent to CD. And we already know what our last reason is. CP, CT, C. Because that will be the last reason on each and every proof that you get. So what you were trying to prove in the first place is always going to be your last statement, and CPCTC is always going to be your last reason. So in this particular case, we had a proof with 14 answers, 7 statements, 7 reasons. And out of those 7 statements, out of those 14 statements and reasons, you automatically knew 6 before you started. It's your goal to be able to fill in the rest proficiently by test day. Good luck.